yeah, I just feel like I've Hello and welcome to the Ears, Peers, Careers and Cheers podcast. I am your host, Nia, and I love it all from music and media, interviews and gossip, life goals and wellness, and of course, I love a good laugh. This is my first episode, and I just want to quickly say that the sound bites used for this podcast for the intro and outro are clips from my new single, Candy Shop Impressions. I had the pleasure of recording it up in Seattle at Luna Sound Studios, and it should be out everywhere mid-May. And if you'd like to hear me live, I will be performing at Rhythms Coffee on May 9th and the Olympia Farmers Market on May 29th. So please come by, listen to me play, and if you can't, then stream Candy Shop Impressions. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to the media staff and here at Evergreen and all the resources that they provide. This studio space is one of them, and all the equipment I'm using. Well, the equipment is compliments to Media Loan. Media Loan, you can check out cameras, lighting, microphones. You can also check out studio spaces. That includes the podcast studio, the audio lab, which has full recording capabilities, a drum set, piano, an organ, an electric organ. There's mixing benches, there's video editing benches. There is pretty much any type of studio that you can think of. And it's super simple to book one of them. All you've got to do is pass a very simple proficiency test. So hit up Ethan Camp on Teams or email to gain access to the Canvas module for that. Oh, there's even an animation studio on the 4th floor of the comm building. And there's piano practice rooms in the comm building as well. I think there's even a dance studio. So that building might be my favorite. But another personal fave of mine right now is the Seal. And that's the Students Equity and Arts Lounge. That is located in the CAB building on the top floor. And that's just a great place to go for free snacks. They got coffee, tea, really cozy chairs, couches. And there's books and movies and a TV. You can do anything. You can relax, do your homework, talk to friends, eat your lunch. They even do events. One of them is a free chili lunch. They do that once a month, and there's a bunch of flyers for that around campus, so keep your eye out. I also encourage you to check out the Wellness Center, where you can get anything from a physical checkup, birth control, get your SSRIs, all your medication, and you can even get talk therapy there. So that's another thing you can schedule online via the Health eConnect portal on your My Evergreen site. No insurance necessary. It is free with the payment of tuition, of course. So, and on the topic of wellness, of course, there is the CRC, which is the rec center. I've really been loving that lately. There are weight rooms. There's a climbing gym. They do yoga on Wednesdays in their yoga studio. There's basketball, volleyball court. And there's even a swimming pool, which is finally open, and I will be going to hopefully tonight. So yeah, if you're a student here at Evergreen, please take advantage of these resources. I really wish that I had sooner instead of just the last quarter of my whole entire 4 years here. But, never better late than never. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I do feel insecure that I wasted too much time here at college, like worrying about boys and parties, sort of. They're not the best parties here at Evergreen, but, or like friends, drama. Anyways, obsessed with all of these other things and not my schoolwork, right? Not these amazing resources on campus. And I've taken classes in music production, which is like what I'm so passionate about, but I feel like I've got nothing to show. And maybe it's just imposter syndrome, but it keeps me up at night. And actually a lot keeps me up at night especially like feeling like I'm going to graduate without a plan, or like I don't know what's next. So I did have to be honest with myself. Like, I need to make some changes. And that's changes to what I eat, how much I sleep, how I show up in class, how I show up in relationships. And hugely, I am trying to change my relationship to my vices. To be fully transparent, I have been addicted to a lot of things. But I would say the most harmful of all of my addictions is my phone. I would scroll and dissociate for hours. I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't participate in my own life. Social media sucks the life out of everybody who uses it regularly, and I know I'm not alone. But I found an answer to my problem, right? I don't have it on me now, but I got a flip phone, and I left my iPhone up with a friend in Seattle, and now I just vibe without the temptation 24/7 to go into the void. And it's like there are some adaptations, right, you got to make, because like our world is like really dependent on the iPhone, the smartphone, right? So if I'm like going somewhere I have never been before, I have to look up the directions. I have to write them down. I have pages and pages in my notebook full of directions to and from different places, like the studio, my friend's house, all of that. But if you get lost, like if you miss something on your directions, you're lost, right? My solution is get out of your car and go ask someone. They might not always have the answer, but ask enough people and you will find your way. Besides that, I mean, yeah, I listen to the radio now in my car, and I do like check out CDs and stuff from the library. And now the Evergreen Library is also another great resource. Do they have the best CD selection? I don't know about that. There's some interesting books on tape if you're into politics, and there's a lot of jazz. So if you're into that, look no further. But yeah, besides that, I mean, I can't take pictures, not good pictures at least, on the flip phone. Can't scan QR codes. But I mean, it's this very, very small trade-off for everything I've gained in sanity, peace of mind. But yeah, anyways, besides my phone, I was also a smoker. I started smoking when I was 11. And I got really heavy on vapes. You know, the Juuls came out. I was 14. I just want to leave it behind. And it's a big shift. And, you know, I'm not perfect, but it's not impossible. And I'm proving that to myself every day. Don't get me wrong, like I've tried in the past, but it only lasts a couple months. So it hasn't even been a couple months yet. So please wish me luck on my journey. I've had other addictions. Like most recently, actually, I turned 21 and I started going to casinos and gambling, and I thought it would be like relatively harmless fun. No, I'm like down thousands of dollars. Please don't go to the casino. Please. Seriously. These are hard things to admit, right? And addiction is a disease. So it's okay to accept that you have one. And some say it's the first step, actually, to moving forward and to changing your life. And so, yeah, that's a part of the reason why I'm being so transparent about my own. On that topic, I would like to welcome a very special guest to speak. She is a sober sweetie. She is my blonde bestie and the number one mama a girl could ask for. Give it up for my mom, Lillian.
Hey. Oh, thank you. Thank you, audience. Thank you, Nia. You forgot that I'm also your number one fan. More. Keep it coming.
Oh, no. I moved to the table.
Shenanigans.
Oh my gosh, shenanigans. So, thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I am good. Had that coffee that you brought me because you're so sweet.
Yeah.
It was sunny outside. All was nice.
Always nice.
Happy to be here.
Seriously. Aw, I'm happy to have you.
Yeah.
So, you're sober.
I am. Thank the good Lord.
Yes. Something we might circle back to.
Right.
Good Lord. How has acknowledgement played a role in your sobriety? And if you can like elaborate on what feelings come up in the journey from denial to acceptance?
I would say like one of the things about acknowledgement was like going from the inner knowing to like saying it out loud and like dealing with what comes with it, like you can kind of know for yourself, and maybe this is how it was for you, like with like social media or smoking or whatever, where it's like, I know that this is not good. I know this is a problem. I know that like I don't want to be doing this, and yet I am. And so like I did have that voice, like that inner acknowledgement, I guess, if you will. And then what was helpful initially was like hearing other people talk about it. And then I was like, oh, wait, you don't drink? You're sober? Can you tell me more? And then, but I think what can be tricky sometimes, or what's tricky for me, is then like getting confused about like, then there was like the voices in my head or whatever that were like, do you really want to like stop altogether? And is it really as bad as you think it was? And like, maybe it's okay. Or like, maybe, yeah. So like there had to be for me, some like trial and error.
Yeah, kind of that rationalization.
Yes.
Of whatever it is. Totally.
Yes.
Especially I hear a lot of people with the phone, like they do come up with like, well, how am I going to take pictures? Or I need it for work.
Yes.
Or how are people going to reach me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Especially, and like you said, when it's so normalized and it's around you all the time, especially depending on like what circles you travel in. So
totally. Yeah.
And then I guess like when I did acknowledge it for the first time, then I was like, no, never mind. And then there were certain people in my life, like you, that were like, remember when you said that? Like, isn't that still true? So then you get to have the accountability piece, I think, too, when you are willing to talk about it out loud, which can be initially something to rebel against. And then when you're ready to be honest, can also be helpful.
Totally. Yeah, I hear that. Sorry, I'm just remembering all the times that I was told by you to stop smoking and by other people and stuff, and kind of just being so like knowingly rebellious towards that, and then realizing like, this isn't just something that other people want from me. This is something I want. Like I actually agree with them. So it's time to do something. Well, thank you. For answering my question.
Did I answer it?
You did. Yes,
okay.
You did. And you did mention the good Lord. And I did want to come back to that because I do, I've heard from many different sober people their kind of stories, and some people are kind of put off by the 12 steps and different programs because the God of it all. And how, as like a non-religious person, have you navigated sobriety and self-awakening despite, not necessarily believing in the traditional God?
Yeah. Well, one thing you were saying early in your kind of intro was something, when you were like, if you get lost, keep asking, and if you ask enough people, you'll find the way. So like that struck me as like true for this as well. And so for me, and this is what happens or happened in my experience of like thinking of a higher power as being something that's not you, right? So like it can literally just be these other people who have gone down the road and can be like, it's this way, or go this way, or go up here for a while, and then, then you'll have to do something, and then you might have to go here, and then you might have to go here, and so like asking enough people, and then eventually find your way. And that like, it does so many things, like from a, on an intellectual level, it gets you out of yourself, and you get to like take in experiences from other people and not have to like figure things out yourself. But then also on a spiritual level, it can take you to a place of like trusting in something bigger than you, and like and believing, trusting and believing and like feeling actually the magnitude, I guess.
Yeah.
Even, and so like collective wisdom could be a higher power,
Right.
like there's no monopoly or anything like on what it is. It's just like something that is literally not you, even if you are also a part of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so again, I don't know if that answered the question.
No,
but
totally. I mean, you're just saying, it's like something that you get to define. Don't let that stop you.
Right.
It's almost like could be used as another rationale of like, I don't believe in God, so I can't get like help in my sobriety.
Totally.
When it's like, oh, well, just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean there's not a higher power out there.
Yeah.
That like with faith can move you forward in your journey.
Yeah. And like, yeah, it is a deterrent for a lot of people. And like, I think for me, it was like, in a way, it was a stumbling block for me mentally and intellectually. But then also like I had, at that point, I had a real, what some would call a gift of desperation of like, I'm just going to do it anyway, even though I don't know, like, if I really like believe any of this. I'm going to do it anyway because I need to, because I know what was back there and I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
So like, so sometimes that is enough, right?
Yeah.
To know that you don't want to go back. And so like, I'm just going to keep stepping. And I used to think of it as, The Labyrinth is one of my favorite movies.
I do know. You remind me of the Babe.
What, babe? And so thank you, David Bowie. And so there was that scene, I don't know if you remember, probably not, but when Bluto, like one of the big Muppet characters, and he calls the rocks to save Jennifer Connelly from like falling into the pit of stench. And so the rocks just like he would call the rocks, and then they would come up one at a time, just like under her feet, like just in time as she needed them to step forward. And so like that was like early on in my recovery that I would tell my sponsor, I'd be like, it's just like that. It's just like the labyrinth. I'm like surrounded by this pit of stench, and I don't know. Someone else are calling the rocks for me, and I'm just going to step on the next one and the next one. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love the labyrinth, of course. I mean, how could I not? But I really like that metaphor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a class right now, and it is called Bringing Ideas to Life. Practice. The professors are Sean Williams and Devin DeMonte. And we covered the topic of liminality last week, one of Sean's favorite subjects. To be liminal is the in-between, right? The threshold. It is gray areas, fluidity, duality, the times of transition, or the both and, if you will. I don't know if I'd call it a piece, but in class I was inspired to kind of think of my own liminal world. So here it goes. If I were to create a liminal world, the sky would be an eternal sunset. The tides would seem to come in endlessly without ever making the water rise. The sky would forever have clouds, never clear, never covered. There would be no gender. Civilization would be scattered. Some would be rubble, some would be in construction. Homes would have boxes, beds unmade, and families could not exist with both parents in the same house. Death would be replaced with hospice only, and umbilical cords would not be cut when a child is born, still connecting it to the mother, neither incubating or individualized. Cancer is inevitable, a constant fog, cherry blossoms, and alcohol.
Yes. But
I'm sorry, I get really excited about the
I love sound effects.
Me too. But anywho, I say alcohol at the end because we talked about the dangers of liminality, and I think one of the biggest ones is addiction. And I just wanted to talk about that, talk about addiction as liminality, because it's you're alive, but you're bringing death nearer. You are awake, but your conscience is away from you, or you're, only half conscious. So it is that in between, or the threshold of living and dying and just really living in that. So anyways, I wanted to ask you if you've ever thought of addiction as liminality, and I was also curious if you think maybe other states of liminality could drive one into addiction.
Well, lots of different things popped in my head. So one is I would see the time that I before my drinking was heavy, and then there's the time of my sobriety, which is almost 5 years of continuous sobriety this month. Hey. And anyway, but then that period in between, the period of drinking, is blurry, foggy, hazy, repetitive, just on a train that doesn't have an ending, So that to me sounds pretty liminal, right? Yeah. And then also I think about how there was let's say when I wasn't drinking during my time of drinking, right? So in my periods of non-drunkenness in the drinking years.
Yeah.
I would say there was more of a feeling of not being in my body, not being comfortable with reality, wanting to quickly get a drink to escape or jump into something else. And so this feeling of I'm living, but I'm not living, or I would describe it as being behind, if I was in an eggshell, and or there was a thick layer between me and the outside world, there's all of these different things that I felt that made me feel as though I wasn't really living. So that sounds like what you were describing with liminality. And so now I think what sobriety has meant for me is real presence. And so it's not that I never want to escape, because I still do, right? It's not that I'm always present in my body.
It's healthy to escape and have healthy escapes. We can't, especially if you're going through something really hard, I think it's almost unhealthy to solely focus and be in that kind of anxious or heightened state for long periods of time. Escape is good.
Yeah, and I've heard a therapist call it titrating, right? Where it's okay, I can touch it or I can get this close to it, and then I need to just back away for a minute. I can take it this much, and then I'm going to chill for a second.
I like that.
So I do think that is one way of being aware and awake and present, right? And then I think, though, because, like you said, addiction is a disease, it does take, like, continued practices.
Practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. Who thought of that, you know? Uh, and because it is, like, our human nature to, you know, to have the challenges that we have and to, like, want to feel certain things. And, you know, so, like, it is not a one and done situation. It's a practice, practice, practice.
It's a practice
situation.
Practice. It's a one day at a time.
It's a one day at a time. It's like, and also sometimes it means I don't know what to do, and like I can tell that I want to go back. Like, and that was a sound effect for like withdrawing. And but instead, like, it's like, okay, but I actually have to like get up and wash the dishes, so I'm gonna do that, even though I want to go,
Yes.
you know. And then it's like, oh yeah, and then I have to go do this, and so it's like literally just doing the thing in front of you and doing the thing in front of you, and like there are temptations to get into that bog of stench,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, it is. Yes, there is. But then it's like weird. Like once you've been on the rocks for so long, you actually start to smell. You start to smell how bad it really reeks. You know what I mean? And so going into the bog isn't as enjoyable anymore because you're like, oh my gosh, this is repulsive.
Yeah.
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 And I really felt that. You know, what you were saying about like just, okay, sometimes you just gotta, you know, maybe you don't want to do this task and usually go and, but you just go and do the next thing.
That's getting sucked into the stench.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with vaping, it was an activity that I would do in between every task or instead of tasks. So like, if I had to go to the bathroom, I would just like sit for a few more minutes and hit my vape, right? Mm-hmm. Or I had to eat. Let me just vape, and like I'll probably be good for another hour, you know. And so now especially when I've stopped wearing the patch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, applause.
Yay! I'll get better at that.
Yeah.
Yay! No patch.
Yay.
But when I was wearing the patch, I would get cravings still. And I was really confused. Like, I'm not too confused, but, like, I really had to look within myself. Like, okay, I'm getting the nicotine. Why am I still having these cravings? Oh, it's like a habitual thing. Like, I am craving nicotine right now. I'm craving the vape because I actually have to pee. And usually when I have to pee, I ignore that and vape. So let me just go to the bathroom.
Totally.
And then I'm fine and I don't have a craving anymore.
Also, that brings up the basic needs part of things like sleeping and eating. Like, those are just like such real things. Like, we just really sometimes need to eat and sleep and go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Like, everything might feel weird and hard, but did you eat?
And did you drink some water?
And did you get a good night's sleep?
Have you peed lately?
Right. And I remember you telling me about HALT. Way back. I think I was like a junior in high school.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Sometimes A can be anxious. If you're me.
Anger makes me quite anxious. I don't know about you.
They're related, I think, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's really important to be able to like listen to ourselves, and I'm learning more about sitting with my emotions, and it's really, really helpful when trying to relieve myself of addiction.
Yes.
So you kind of oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I
just thoughts come and go. So I'm well timed.
I really tried. Anyway,
I just was curious about where you were going with it, because if I can always circle back to my thoughts later.
I was going to transition to just to the next question.
Cool.
And it's something you kind of were talking about already. So I was just going to ask what it's like on the other side, you know? Share the benefits of sobriety or the journey to self-awakening, and is it hard sometimes, and how do you keep going?
Yeah, you're right. I did talk about this a little bit because sometimes it is just like doing the next right thing. And
yes.
just doing the thing in front of you. And sometimes it's asking for help, and you ask enough people until you find the way. Like, again, like those are you just keep using the same tools. And then you sometimes get other ones like the practice tools. It will probably keep evolving. At least they have for me. But yeah, what is it like now? I mean, I can remember so much more of my life.
Real.
And that's really nice.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm on a train that's going nowhere or stuck on a train.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's just like so many more possibilities. And like, really, I think the main thing is that I don't know what can happen. Like, there's so much I don't know, right? And what can happen is so much better than I can imagine. So, like, it can be so scary to give up these things that we thought were giving us comfort or keeping us in a familiar place, right? And in your case, maybe smoking and things like that. In my case, drinking. And so it might be like, well, I don't even know how I'm going to do this thing called life. What's it even going to be like? But then, like, it seems like it just is better than you can even imagine, because for lots of practical reasons, you have more time, you have more energy, you have more money, you have more, like, you just like have more wherewithal, you have more brain cells, you have more to make of the world. And then also perhaps because we're relying on other people and we've widened our world and we're not like living so individualistically and like isolated, there's also more possible because like we're living more interconnectedly. So there's that. And then, yeah, I mean, of course it's hard, and I'm just really grateful for practices. So like meditation type of practices have been really helpful, mostly because they help when it is tempting to get carried away with thoughts, emotions, whatever. There is a real memory of, but just like coming back to breath or coming back to stillness or coming back to just right now in this particular moment in which like my heart is beating and I'm alive and I'm breathing and I'm currently okay, and I'm sitting across the room with someone who is currently okay, you know? And so those kind of practices are helpful when times are hard, because they can just like bring me back.
Yeah, I do remember growing up, I would get really scared and like anxious at night. And I mean, going to bed has always been really challenging for me. But when I was especially scared and would ask you to like lay with me at night or whatever, you would you would just be like, okay, just list the facts, Nia. Like, and sometimes you'd have me do it, sometimes you would do it, and you're like, there's a window in the room, the door is wooden, you have carpet on your floor,
Your head's on a pillow.
just like these, just facts to ground us in the current moment, and that was always super helpful.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of goes back to the liminality thing, because like if we're thinking in the future or we're thinking in the past, then we're not in the present, right?
Yes.
And if we're in the present, is that then not liminal, right? I mean,
liminality, honestly, at the end of the lecture, I was like really frustrated because I was like, is everything liminal? Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was a little overwhelmed, I think is a better word for it, you know? But I do think that, yes, even though like a lot of things can be liminal, there are things that are strictly not. And I think living in the present and being mindful of the here and now and yourself and your surroundings is not liminal. I mean, your surroundings might be liminal, but that isn't. But see, that's where it gets overwhelming. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know, I'm like, I really think it's an interesting topic, but at a certain point, I have to like cut myself off because it could go on and on.
Some concepts are just too big for our little tiny brains sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm glad we can touch on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kidding. We don't have tiny brains. We're very smart.
Well, even if we had big brains, you can only use 10% of your brain.
Yeah, and really what I mean is like some things are like felt
Yeah.
and understood on a feeling level or an
Yeah.
experiential level.
Yeah.
And then like when we try to put words to it, it can be elusive.
And I think that to circle back to liminality, I think that you can feel it too. You know, I think liminality feels ominous or nostalgic or eerie, you know, like an empty
Neither
mall.
here nor there.
Right? It feels maybe anxious. It feels, you know, like anticipation versus not liminal.
Groundedness,
Exactly.
rootedness,
Exactly.
connectedness.
Right. When you're like really sure about something, you
Yeah.
feel it.
Interesting.
In your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that is all the questions that I have for you. Thank you so much, Mom, for being a part of the first episode of my podcast.
Aw,
Yeah,
you're so sweet to ask me.
of course. I'm so
You've been so inspiring, you know, like with all the things that you're doing lately. And, you know, you've gotten me working out. You've gotten me to try to give up sugar since that's like one of my cravings. You like, you know, you're just very inspiring and you're so encouraging of like all the things I do, like when I write my little poems or something. And so it's just really nice to be able to be supportive and do things for you whenever you ask. 'Cause I love you.
I love you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Give us a mic.
Embarrassing myself. Yeah. Thank you. That was a really sweet thing to say, seriously. And I appreciate your support. I don't know where I would be without it. Seriously.
Well, if you want to make the next podcast, Everything I Love About You, I'm happy to be there for that, okay?
No.
Like, we can do 45 minutes.
You can start your own.
And yeah, it'll just be like fully about everything that you've done in your life. And I'll just, whoa.
Sorry, that was the transition.
She muted me. No, I'm just kidding.
So thank you so much for being here. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I am really grateful for your whole presence, your companionship in this life. Yes, and I hope. Oh.
And I was just going to say, can you remind the people where to hear you?
So yeah, I hope that you, the audience, have enjoyed this first episode where we delved into addiction, liminality, self-improvement, and I encourage you students to take advantage of the resources I mentioned here on campus, and there are many more on that I didn't list. So walk around, read the billboards, ask people. There's so much, and there's so many people here for us all. And I want to give one last shout out to the media staff here on campus. I really wouldn't have been able to set all this up without their helpful guidance And if you are interested in using this space, there are drop-in sessions on Monday and Thursdays from 4 to 5 where you can learn how to use this space and get proficiency to schedule it for your own projects. And lastly, my shameless self-promotion, come hear me perform at Rhythms Coffee on May 9th and the Olympia Farmers Market on May 29th.
Yeah.
Yep. And stream Candy Shop Impressions when it comes out so soon. Thank you again, Mom, for being here. Yes?
Thank you. Yeah. And really, Candy Shop Impressions is the best song. It's so good.
All right. Well, that is all. And thank you so much for tuning in. Here I will play a little outro from Candy Shop Impressions. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.